Art at the Edge of the World, impressive paintings by Uruguayan artist Juan Manuel Blanes about the difficult life in this country. Juan Manuel Blanes, 1830–1901, was a Uruguayan realist painter who became the founder of the realist school of painting in this country. His work is original and exotic. In his best paintings, Blanes in detail depicted iconic and often tragic for Uruguay events, and he did it in full accordance with his understanding of the tasks of painting, where the main thing, a realistic reflection of reality. Therefore, his works are interesting to both art lovers and historians. They allow us to understand how people lived in such a distant country, with its distinctive culture and national characteristics. Juan came from the city of Montevideo. His parents were natives of Spain, like many Uruguayans at that time. However, apart from national pride and religious devotion, they had little else. For example, Juan's older brother Gregorio was the main earner in the family. Juan loved to draw since childhood. At the age of 14, he created his first notable drawing, the image of the British schooner Commodore Purvis. And in 1843 began the famous siege of Montevideo, and young Juan, along with his mother, 5 brothers and sisters, had to move to a camp for refugees. His father stayed in Montevideo, but life in the besieged city was not easy, and in 1848 he died. When, finally, in 1851, it was possible to return to the city, Juan got a job as an artist in the newspaper El Defensor. However, the pay was not too much, so he had to work part-time, painting watercolors. He married Maria Linari and moved to Salto, the second largest city in Uruguay, where he found a good income as a portrait painter. His portraits differed favorably in their elaboration and realism from the standard works of Uruguayan artists, and 2 years later followed an offer from Argentine President Justo José de Urquiza to create a series of paintings for the Palace of San Jose. There was a lot of work. Juan Blanes moved to Argentina for a few years, brilliantly fulfilled the order, and about him throughout South America went to fame as one of the most capable artists of his generation. Upon his arrival in his homeland, he received a pleasant and well-deserved surprise, a paid scholarship from the Uruguayan government, which enabled him to travel with his family to Italy to study painting. Blanes painted one of his most famous paintings in 1871. Then in Buenos Aires broke out yellow fever, a terrible disease brought with slaves from Africa in the late 60s of the 19th century. It was spread by mosquitoes, which were numerous in the hot climate of South America, and the pathogen itself felt perfectly well there. Added to all this matter, crowded population and unsanitary conditions. It is not surprising that from time to time there were monstrous epidemics, leading to sad consequences. The painting shows a young woman dying, or perhaps already dead, with a helpless infant crawling beside her. The incoming men, who have been opened by her younger teenage brother, seem unfazed, accustomed to everything while surveying the aftermath of the epidemic, but the people in the yard cover their noses at the foul odor wafting out of the house. There is a human tragedy in which there is no one to blame, and one can only trust in the will of God. It is not surprising that such epidemics were considered God's punishment for sins. And Blanes lived for a long time in Uruguay, where he painted portraits and historical paintings. True, his last years were overshadowed by misfortune. In Italy died because of an accident his son Juan Luis, and his second son Nicanor then disappeared somewhere, and there was no news about him. The elderly artist decided on a difficult road to the Italian Pisa, where rumors last saw his son, hoping to find out something about him, but all was to no avail. He quietly lived out the rest of his life in this city, not wanting to return to his homeland, and died at the age of 70.